yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to address two sets of things. One is the repeated claim, it's a mantra at this point, about Mr. Bragg vowing to go after President Trump, campaigning on going after President Trump, leaving out all the campaign promises to get Trump. I got to say that I haven't heard anybody specifically quote anything about it, except the chairman's quote. And I wanted, we've been trying to dig this up and see what the factual basis is for that repeated allegation, because it's very relevant. I mean, the point about some of you have been saying that this is sort of issue number one with respect to proof that this is a political prosecution that was inappropriate. And as I went through all the facts, I kept seeing him say that he wanted to follow the facts. Now, the quote that the chairman lifted, I've seen him up front and seen the lawlessness that he could do. Well, that was in the context of the 100 prosecutions that had come through the state attorney general's office. And in one instance is leading to a $2 million settlement against the Trump Corporation for fraud, along the lines of the corporate finding that I think is that $470 million that's resulted in. And then there's also the sexual assault finding as well in a separate court. But the point that Bragg was making was that he's dealt with these cases frequently. And he was questioned about this over and over again during the campaign, but he made statements along the lines of these. I believe we have to hold him accountable. I haven't seen all the facts beyond the public, but I've litigated with him, and so I'm prepared to go where the facts take me once I see them and hold him accountable. Another quote during the same interview that the chairman referenced, "You're right, I am being careful, not just because I'm running for office, but because every case still has to be judged by the facts, and I don't know all the facts." Another quote, again, from Mr. Bragg in a different interview, "I will hold him accountable by following the facts where they go." Over and over again, he said that he would follow the facts and follow the law in reaching his decision about making a determination to prosecute or not. Another interview after that, this was asking about whether he had the ability to prosecute these cases, which is where he referenced his prior experience dealing with Mr. Trump and his corporations. But he said, but without talking about, what we don't know, which is where this is headed, the facts that aren't in the public domain. The questioner followed up, "You can't talk about that?" Bragg responded, "I can't talk about that." He said over and over and over again that he wanted to follow the facts and that he hadn't reached a conclusion about where he was going to go. He did reference the previous cases against Mr. Trump and their legion and the subsequent cases as well. But I think over and over again, he made it clear that he had not made a decision about whether to prosecute or not, and he hadn't predetermined what he was going to do. Real quickly, I'm running out of time, but Professor Foley, you raised the issue of the defense being blindsided, essentially, by not knowing what the legal theory of the case was. And in your testimony, written and that you stated today, you quoted the response and the people's response to the bill of particulars, number 2. But you left out a key part of the quote. And so when I took a look at it, after Ambassador Eisen referenced it, we got a copy of it. You quoted page 5. I flipped over to page 6, and it lays out bullet points about the specifics of what's going to be pursued, and they're bringing it to the attention of the defense. An agreement to unlawfully suppress negative stories about the defendant before an election in order to influence the outcome of the election. Multiple false statements in the business records. I'll skip down. Disguising reimbursement payments by doubling them and falsely characterizing them as income for tax reasons. Now, you also stated that the first time that they knew the theory of the case was when jury instructions were read. And so I looked at your testimony where you quote the jury instructions. And guess what? It mentions all of the same things that were referenced in the bullet points. election, the law was violated, federal election law, which is number 2, falsification of other business records, 3, violation of tax laws. Ambassador, we're running out of time, but I guess I was a little surprised based on your testimony when you said that they hadn't given any indication of where they were going to go beyond broad references to federal election law, tax law, and the like, when the specific bullet points in the Bill of Particulars response were the same as the ones that are referenced in the jury instructions according to your written testimony. I see my time's expired. I yield back to the chair.